You are watching Macro TV, and we are still busy with Study Unit 3, which is Chapter 3 in Fourie and Burger. We are considering the ADAS model and different shocks to the macroeconomy, and how we can use this model to talk about the impact on prices and incomes in the macroeconomy. In this example, we're looking at the impact of an increase in government spending, so expansionary fiscal policy. Now you'll see at the top of our slide there, it explains what happens when there's an increase in government spending. In our figure, it moves the AD curve from the equilibrium at point 0 with a price 0 and the long run income YS, it moves it over to point 1 at an income level of Y1 and a price of P1. Now behind this move of the AD curve, you have all the IS-LMBP action. The increase in government spending pushes up incomes, and this leads to an increase in imports, which leads to a deficit on the balance of payments. The increase in incomes also leads to an increase in the demand for money, which pushes up interest rates, which in turn then chokes this expansion of output. And that is only step one. Then we can go on and say, at this point, we know that there is a balance of payments deficit. And an adjustment process is required. In order to make that adjustment, there is a money supply effect, moving the LM curve, and there's also an exchange rate effect, moving the IS and the BP curves. All of this happens in the background, but it still leaves us with an AD curve that moved from AD0 to AD1, and at the point or equilibrium number 1 on the graph. What we add when we add it to the ADAS model is to say that at point 1, we know that there is a difference between the actual price P1 and the expected prices P0 at which laborers set their labor contracts. They'll now realize that the price of goods and services have increased and they have fallen behind in real terms. They don't have the buying power that they thought they would have. This leads to wage claims, which increases production costs, and that moves the AS curve, the short run AS curve, to the left, to AS short run number 1. Now those increases in wages, of course, leads to more spending in the economy, but also price increases. And in the second round effect, the AS moves to the left again, and we are back at an equilibrium at point 2. Now, the lessons for policymakers from this is that if you have an increase in expenditure, it leads to higher inflation. And particularly, if you keep doing this for a while, it only leads to inflation. So if you want to permanently reduce the unemployment rate below the structural rate, it's going to come at the cost of increasing inflation. What policymakers would rather like to do is to grow the economy and to move the long-run aggregate supply to the right. But that's a story for a different video. The specific case of an increase in government spending, in the next case, we'll look at other shocks and policies and how we can use the ADAS to model those effects.